watching Hustle and Heart TV, a video podcast show that spotlights expert advice from top money earners, successful entrepreneurs, superstar network marketers, and leading authorities in business and marketing. I'm Darieth Chisolm. I'm inviting you into my home and I'm bridging my own personal success as an entrepreneur, MLMer, news anchor, and now video podcast show host to help you leverage more tools and resources, make more money, and generate more ways to take action, become a rock star, and love your journey. I have made it to the kitchen of Kathy Parry. Kathy, so glad to have you on Hustle and Heart TV.
I'm so glad you're in my kitchen. What a better place to be.
And what a beautiful place it is. And Kathy is going to talk with us all about eating well, more importantly about you really taking care of yourself and understanding your relationship with food.
Yeah, that's what I do. I'm tagged as your real food coach, and I like to tell people, don't ask me about exercise. I don't know about that. I deal with food.
Well, and we know that food obviously is so very important. I mean, we consume it all day, every day. Our relationship with food is tumultuous sometimes, right? Sometimes it's enjoyable. Yeah. But your intent as you work with people and as you speak, and certainly we'll talk more about your books, is to really help people identify the relationship with food and then choose real food over processed junk.
Correct. Yes, that is my mantra. Keep it as real as possible. And people, sometimes they stop me and say, wait, what is real food? What's the definition of real food? I say, as close to the way it was grown as possible. So when we see a box of crackers that might say sun-dried tomato basil crackers, that sounds like it's a real food until you turn it over and see that all those flavors are actually artificial. So keeping it, I say it either grew on a bush in the ground in a tree, or it ate something that grew on the ground or a bush or a tree.
But nowadays it seems that more people are really coming to understand the importance of eating good, real food. And in fact, all of a sudden it's like raw food is sexy. When you're growing up, carrots and cucumbers and things that you eat fresh out of the garden, not so much. But this relationship that we're having with good, real food has changed. And I don't know if it's because we understand the value of it now, or that people are really coming to realize that eating processed and not eating well is certainly leading to more disease, more sickness, not having a long, healthy life. I mean, what is it now that has made people, at least from what I can tell, just get more comfortable with the idea of eating real, raw food?
Right. Well, the science is there. That's what's happened. So I like to tell people we live at a cellular level. So we're only as healthy as our cells. And if we are not feeding our cells the right things, then they're becoming damaged. So as the science gets further along and begins to back up what a lot of people have already known, that when you're eating artificial foods, that's causing damage to cells. You may not see it when you're 7 or 8 years old. I like to tell the parents I work with, you're not going to see it in a 7 or 8 year old right away, but over time, year after year after year of not eating real foods, your cells become damaged. That leads to disease. So science is finally backing up what probably a lot of us felt in our gut. Yeah, that processed stuff might not be that good.
Yeah, it might taste good, but we know that it isn't good for us. It's interesting because your background you've studied this, and not only obviously do you look great and you eat well and you advocate it, but in terms of understanding food at a cellular level, you chose to spend more time investigating and become certified in that area. Because of your daughter, correct?
Correct.
Share that with us.
Yes, sure. So my youngest daughter, I have 4 children, and when I had a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a almost 3-year-old, number 4 was born. So if I wasn't busy enough, all of a sudden she started acting a little funny. I didn't understand these little jerks she was doing. Long story short, in a year of trying to get a diagnosis, the doctors looked at us at one point and said, well, let's hope something's wrong with her brain. And I said, oh, how could you say that? I have these young children at home. What does this mean? He said, well, I'm starting to think something's wrong with her cells, and that's much worse. So we eventually did get a diagnosis that said every cell in her body didn't turn food into energy properly. That's called a mitochondrial disease. So 2 little systems in every cell are off. Well, that set me up. At that point, they said, you can expect a 2-year life expectancy. Well, Merritt Joy is her name. Merritt turned 13 last year.
Oh.
She's never been hospitalized. She's never had a cold, an ear infection, strep throat. She doesn't get sick. She eats real food. She is a vegan. When I speak to people, I don't advocate that lifestyle for everyone. For her, it's worked, and for her, it's kept her very healthy. She's severely disabled, but she's really healthy. And she's a joy. And I like to say she's the only child who doesn't talk back to me. She will never go to the principal's office in trouble. So there's lots of ways to look at it. But she's been my inspiration for letting other people see how powerful food can be.
Yeah, and the inspiration for you to take your knowledge of food and how it works at a cellular level to a much deeper place.
Yes.
That allows you now to speak about it, to talk about it, to advocate eating so that it's more than just putting it into the stomach, but really identifying what it means on a cellular level. Do most people get that? I mean, when you're trying to translate that in common lay terms, when we'd much rather grab a bag of chips, do people get it?
Well, when I speak, I've made it my mission to break it down. So, A, it's not boring. I can't stand listening to a lot of nutrition talk. No one really likes to listen to that. I actually just had someone a couple weeks ago say, I sat across from a dietitian for 3 sessions and I didn't learn what I learned today. So they get it when it's told in the right context. So I have some fun stories and analogies that do that. And I think it eventually clicks, yes.
Yeah, and it really needs to. I think that learning about food can be fun and enjoyable, and especially as we think about just, making sure that we're eating so that we're healthy, but that we do enjoy the experience with food. This relationship that most of us have with it, I use the word tumultuous. It depends on whether or not we're on a diet or not, I guess is probably the best way to say that. But why is it that that a lot of people struggle with food and making good choices, and especially when it comes to being on a diet?
Yeah. Well, diet, no one likes that word. I don't use that word because that signals, deprivation to most of us. But the reason in this country we've had this relationship, we're using food as an emotional crutch. 75% of every food decision you make is based on some emotion. And I like to call them the head emotions and the heart emotions. So head emotions are you're stressed and frustrated and angry. You want things that crunch. So things that relieve some of that stress.
Do you want salt when that happens?
Sometimes you want salt. Pizza, things that chew that relieve that stress. But then for the heart emotions, we head straight to the ice cream. Those
Sweet
comfort foods and those things. Plus the foods we're eating, they trigger this happy hormone in your brain that says, that made me feel so good, have some more. So we're kind of using food. If you think about food 50 years ago, it was sustenance. It was what we were supposed to do so we would, feel good. But now we're using it as an emotional release.
That's interesting that you point out, because the minute you said it with the head or the heart and kind of salty, crunchy, or sweet, or comfort,
right.
You're right. Whether I'm stressed about this or agonizing over this, you do tend to reach for that.
Right.
How do you break it?
Well, when I work with people, I have a simple little exercise we do. Often people look at me and say, if they're going to work with me, they say, do you want me to keep a food journal? They're all excited to show the good things that they've eaten. I said, no, I don't want to see what you're eating. We'll talk about that later. Our first exercise will be about identifying exactly why it went in your mouth. Every time something goes in your mouth, think about it. And I give an entire list of emotions and say, try to identify which one. And a lot of people have just clued in. I actually worked with someone who said, I just like to eat. I just like to eat. There's always something a little deeper. So are you lonely? Are you sad? Did your kids not call you today? Did you have stress at work? So really kind of getting to that. Why are you using food?
Yeah, interesting. We've got a lot to talk with you about, including your books, actually 2 of them. In fact, I love the title of this: Hungover, Sleep Deprived, Over-Caffeinated, and Living on Pizza. If this is you, it certainly is me from time to time. You're probably going to want to stick around and learn more about this book, but also Kathy's solution around that. And we'll talk more about just the business of food and how you've grown your brand and some strategies and tips and tools that you can use if this is the type of business that you're in or looking to get in, or just being a complete success in any other industry. So stay with us. Are you interested in learning more about podcasting and video podcasting and how you can build your brand, influence, and income through podcasting? I'd be happy to help. In fact, you can schedule a complimentary discovery session with me. Really simple. Just go to podcastingandyou.com. Leave me your name and your email. You might want to check out one of my upcoming trainings as well, or simply send me an email at info@dariethchisholm.com, and we'll get some time scheduled to discover how podcasting can help you grow your business and your brand.
Trouble can find anyone. At Frank Walker Law, we take the time to understand your situation and work tirelessly on your behalf. Hard-hitting representation when you need it the most. A real law firm getting real results.
Are you looking for a career that pays great money, working with a fun group of people? I know, sounds too good to be true, right? Hi, I'm Troy Miles of the Miles Group.
We will train you, help you get your license, even supply leads. No cold calling.
I've been here 2 years and earned 6 figures this year.
I love my job.
I love the freedom and being my own boss.
If you would like to work among friends, have a great time, and make good money, call us.
Find out more at tmilesgroup.com.
Are you looking for a way to advertise your business, product, or service? Why not do it here on Hustle and Heart TV? We'd be happy to send you our media kit for show sponsorship and advertising. Reach out to us at info@dariethchisholm.com or give us a call at 412-692-1600 and we'll send you a media kit with all the information.
Hello, I'm Dion Malish. I'm a real estate agent and owner of Northwood Realty Services 201 Associates, and you're watching Hustle and Heart TV with Darieth Chisolm.
Kathy Parry has written a couple very interesting books about food, and before we went to break, we talked a little bit about this one: hungover, sleep deprived, over-caffeinated, and living on pizza. As you say, you put this out primarily for college students, but I'm long way from college, and I'm still living this life sometimes.
You are not the only one who tells me that. Every time I bring it up, people are like, that's me.
Why is it that, I mean, really, we come to function on this? I mean, not all the time. I mean, I do generally eat well, but there are times that I find that I'm in that place, and it's kind of like a spiral. It's sometimes tough to get out of it.
It's definitely tough because once you're in the path of easy, I've actually had people say, I don't want to spend a half hour to make dinner. And I'm like, really? Because your health is a lot more important than a half hour. I just tell people, if you can just give a half hour every day to plan or think about what you're going to eat and have it available. We spend a half hour doing really silly stuff.
Playing on Facebook and video games, right? Yeah.
When your health, when you begin to realize that, today it might work for you, but compound that over the years. That's what I'm always trying to get people to realize. The decisions you're making today are compounded. It's how you're going to age. It's how you're going to feel when you're 50, 60, 70. All starts, much earlier.
Which brings us to your first book, which is really about recipes for an energetic life.
Correct, yeah. And that's based off what I learned with my daughter. So her disease is called the disease of no energy. If you want to be in business or have an entrepreneurial spirit or just getting going every day.
To hustle.
You have to have energy. And I hear it all the time. When I start to work with people, I usually say, what are your goals? What would you like to see in 6 months? Then, there's always that, well, I'd like to lose some weight. But number 2 is always, I want more energy. We've become this nation that's run around tired because we're stressed. When we're stressed, we lose energy. When we eat poorly, we lose energy. So it's really about how do you stay energetic so you can enjoy life.
Yeah. And speaking of which, really having the energy to run a successful business. Let's switch gears and look at that. I mean, because clearly we can talk food all day long, which I'd love to do.
I love that too.
But I really want to advocate for our viewers and our listeners some key principles, some success strategies, some things that you've used to build your brand in this genre, in this industry around food.
Yeah. Because it is getting to be a tighter and tighter industry. So food, as you said, very, on the forefront of a lot of people's minds. I work with corporate clients who have wellness programs. They want to, make sure their employees are energized. So in my journey in business, it was really trying to figure out who I wanted to serve. And I like to say there's plenty of unhealthy people out there, so lots of people and lots of ways to serve. For me, I narrowed it down to I love to speak. I don't work that much with people one-on-one anymore because I do a lot of speaking, and I can reach people through that and my books. That's how I kind of niched myself down.
Yeah, and how long did it take you to get to that? Because I realize in business sometimes we start off in one path, we end up, and then we decide, this is what I want to do. No, I think I'll flavor it with this. It sounds like you really narrowed in on building your brand, as you pointed out, with a book, and then with speaking. How did you make that decision? For those of us that, have 10 balls in the air.
Well, you're so right. And I have been through the stage where I had 10 balls in the air. I started out thinking I was going to help families and young children because I saw that there was such a need to help these families whose kids were not eating a fruit or vegetable all day. That didn't turn out to be the best business model because you have to work with a lot of 5-year-olds to make a business run. So it did take me, my father probably gave me the best advice. He said, it's always going to take longer than you think. So it wasn't until I was about 3 years in where I realized I need to figure out how to monetize what I do and really form it as a business model. And that's when I went to my heart a little bit and said, what do you love to do and how can you best serve others? And that was speaking. So it wasn't that quick. It did take a few years to narrow it down.
And that's okay, because what I find is that experience of having the opportunity to delve into a variety of different things only allows you to bloom and blossom as a better speaker or a better author, because it's taken that journey to get to where you are. And some of us move faster, some of us move slow, but getting there and then finding it is important. And who knows, 10 years from now, it could be something else. It could be video podcasting. It could be anything, but the reality is in business, it's being flexible enough and yet focused enough to get to the end goal. You speak a lot. You've got a book, but also the wellness corporate wellness programs. How is that working?
I love corporate wellness because when I come in, I'm kind of a treat. So sometimes I do. There'll be an all-day seminar.
You're carrying carrots, but it's a treat.
But I'm not like finance, or I'm not telling them about whatever department needs they have. So often I come in and I'm very well received because we do have a lot of fun, and it's not. My main goal is to never make food boring. I'm like, wouldn't that be awful if this lady showed up and it was just boring? I say, food is one of our greatest joys. We get to enjoy it with people we love on a daily basis, so let's make it fun. So my corporate programs are very well received, and I do everything from 12-week sessions with one company to keynotes for bringing in a department all together and they need someone to keynote. So it's fun. I love it, and I love my corporate groups because they're very receptive.
For someone watching who is perhaps interested in doing this line of work, how do you go about establishing yourself as someone who is seen as the authority for corporate wellness programs?
Yeah. That is a great question because I just spoke with someone yesterday. Lots of people now are saying they want to get into the wellness, some form of wellness. So really, I would tell people to start right away thinking about who they best want to serve. If it does happen to be corporate, then I say pick the 20 companies that you want to talk to. Just start somewhere and then reach out. We don't do enough reaching out. So pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm starting corporate wellness. Could you tell me what your needs are? Do you do any type of wellness programming? Sometimes you have to start, by giving them a taste of you so they understand what you're all about. But they're very receptive.
Yeah, pick up the phone, networking. I find these days we spend so much time trying to figure out how to do it online, right? Through social media. And yet there's this disconnect that happens when we have to get out, go to a networking event, shake a hand. That's all people did 10 years ago. Now all of a sudden it's like you need to get back to doing that because building those relationships can be so important.
So important. Yeah, I think anyone can learn from a really good salesperson. I've been influenced by a couple of people in my life who are very good at sales. And when I say that, all it means is they're really good at relationships. They can sit down and talk with anyone and immediately have a connection.
You've also invested in yourself. You realize the value of not only reading great books, but taking great programs, hiring great coaches, really continuing your own personal development as well as your business development.
Yes. Every year I say, what am I going to learn? I don't know it. And I always say, someone out there knows it and someone out there can help me. So I've always reached out, taken a lot of coursework, flown across the country, to attend seminars where I'll learn something. And even if I don't learn the whole package, I'm learning pieces of it. So everything I've invested in, I've always gotten, good return.
Yeah, and it just makes absolute sense. If you decide that you're going to be in business doing a certain thing, continue to learn it, find the new ways to grow, because as we know, the landscape changes year after year, and it's so very important to continue doing that. Would love to talk a little bit more about branding and where you plan to take your business over the next couple of years, so we'll delve into that when we come back.
Great.
So what steps have you taken lately to take your business to a whole nother level? Or are you stuck or stalled? I'd love to hear from you. So send me an email at info@dariethchisholm.com, or you can like me on Facebook at Darieth Chisholm or on Twitter at Darieth Chisholm, and share your journey. Ask me a question, give me a topic or two, or a potential show guest. Looking forward to hearing from you.
This is not a hotel. It's an idea that travel should be brilliant. Because it's not only about where you're staying, it's about where you're going. The promise of spaces far beyond your imagination. We're here to advance the art of hosting so you can make the most of your journey. Pittsburgh Marriott City Center. Travel brilliantly.
Hey, it's Tam Michelle with Tie the Knot Tuesday here at the Pittsburgh Marriott City Center, where we take care of all of your event and meeting needs brilliantly. So today we're going to talk about head tables, whether it's a sweetheart table for two or a royal table for the entire bridal party. Remember that it's a focal point in your room. So while you're dressing up the rest of the room, don't forget to make this stand out with some draping, additional centerpieces, or some lighting. When you handle the I-dos, we'll handle the to-dos. For your wedding and event needs, like us on Facebook at the Pittsburgh Marriott City Center and call us at 412-918-1373 and ask for me, Tam Michelle. Keep smiling.
On Hustle and Heart TV, we like to focus on 4 pillars that I believe that most people in business utilize or certainly leverage, if you will, as part of their success, and that is leadership, leveraging, if you will, loving your journey and your lifestyle. And so all of those things are very important. And we've talked a little bit about each of those, but let me ask, how do you leverage, and what are some of the things that you do to run your business more successfully?
Well, I've done a lot of visiting my goals. That makes sense. Every week I look at, am I where I'm supposed to be? At the beginning of the year, I start with a year-long plan. And a lot of it doesn't transpire because you're starting, but doing that checking in with yourself. It's like, I just did it yesterday. It's like, wait, what's my next step? What's next? I have to go back to what I originally wrote. Does it still make sense right now, this time of the year? So I do a lot of self-checkup. I guess that's one way.
Measure, monitor, adjust, and control.
Yes.
Really important to get the goals out, go back to it. Are you on pace? Redirect if need to. Yeah, that's
Correct.
a great thing.
Redirect is a big one with me. Okay, that doesn't feel right. I need to move. Yeah.
And how do you trust your gut to do that? When you think about it, because sometimes we redirect based on mindset, but sometimes it's really, we should be redirecting based on gut, yeah?
Yeah, and I think I do use my gut more than anything, but that took me a while to figure out. Let me put it that way. That was part of the journey. Most people wouldn't say, oh, I'm going to run out and speak. That sounds like something I'd like to do. And I didn't either. I started in a different way. But then my gut started telling me, that's not, coaching, like I said, the 5-year-olds, that's not really me. I need to be out there more.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of that.
And really, I mean, and that's just it, is identifying what it is that you feel in deep inside, and then going for it no matter what. This process of loving your journey, loving where you are now based on the decisions that you have made, both good and bad.
Yeah, I do honor my journey. I call it honoring my journey. So I've honored the journey, and I also like to say, be gentle with yourself. Especially when you're in business for yourself, and I am my brand, you can beat yourself up on that one. Am I doing it right? So that is one of my mantras. Honor the journey and understand that every step is getting you somewhere.
Yeah, and it's sometimes too when part of that is we justify success based on the dollars that are either coming in or not coming in, and then we label ourselves not successful when it doesn't add up to that.
Right.
And yet you could have so many other successes that are not necessarily, monetary, and really valuing that and understanding it.
And that's great for me, probably as you, because we help people. And so when I was in an event where someone had heard me, maybe 6 months before, and she came running up to me and said, "You aren't going to believe what I did because of you." Whoa, well, that's a big payday for me. I helped somebody change their life for the better. So yeah, it can't always be monetized.
Yeah. You talk about the fact that you found your way in terms of where you are now because speaking really spoke to you. Yeah. And we talked in the break about just the value of, if that's what you want to do, going after it and not being afraid, and realizing that you can build a very powerful brand as a speaker.
Yes.
What would you suggest to people around doing that and getting started on the speaking circuit?
Well, I would say don't be afraid to ask people to speak, for you to come and speak to them. Sometimes you're not going to get paid at the beginning because you're just starting out and you don't have a lot. So, I did a lot of library talks and free civic organizations, but I started getting my name out, and that was all great for building, me, building my brand, building the business. Now I don't do those things anymore because I'm out there. So I'd say don't be afraid to start somewhere. Sometimes we think, oh, we have to land, a Fortune 500 company's, year-end event. No, you don't start there, but get started.
Yeah, and that's it. You've got to pave the way. You've got to, take the baby steps, if you will, and doing smaller events is a perfect way to doing that. And what would you suggest to people around really finding their niche topic? And is it always about whatever their business is, or can it sometimes be something offside?
It doesn't have to always be about your business. This is an interesting thing I learned along the way from one of the coaches who I had. And he basically said, people want to hear about motivation, leadership, or inspiration. Those are your hot topics. Well, how do you put food in that? So I brand one of my talks as, was one of the college talks is how effective student leaders stay energized. So now it becomes a talk about leadership, that leaders have to be energized. So you have to know how to package your topic for what someone wants to hear. So there's a little bit of that. And I say anyone can craft something if they just have about 5 different points that they decide to make. It kind of goes, tell a story, make a point. Tell a story, make a point. It's a great formula for a 45-minute talk.
Tell a personal story, make a point, It's interesting, I heard one of your stories, which I found so delightful, about your travels to Florida and then the treats that you and your siblings were able to get, and this love affair with moon pies.
Yeah. Yes.
Still eating them?
No, I do not eat them. But the point of that story was to share with people that we have such a strong connection with food that it can transport you to a place. So if I see a moon pie, I'm transported back to being a 10-year-old. Yeah.
That's great. You've got a cookbook that's coming out soon.
Yes.
Yeah. How's that going?
Well, we're still formulating recipes. That's the thing. A cookbook's not like a regular book. You have to actually spend the time in the kitchen, get the recipes down, actually ask people to test the recipes, because I cook with some degree of knowledge, so I might have missed a step, whereas a novice cook needs a little more explanation.
Yeah, well, good luck with that. I'll come over and be one of your recipe testers. I'd be happy to do that. Yeah. I want you to give some thought to 2 things, and that is leaving our audience with 2 strong points, one being a hustle tip and a heart tip. What would those be?
Well, the heart tip's very easy for me because I feel that everything I've done in my business is based on this great love, and it's a love affair with food, but it's also a love of family. So I took this journey with my daughter who had this disease. My background was in food management, so I already had a background in food. And then I went a little further. But always at every talk before I give, I think of her. And I think she's the inspiration. She doesn't have a voice. I've said that. She doesn't speak. I get to be her voice. So I'm always honoring her in that part of my journey. So that's my heart tip. Just know what inspires you, know who inspires you, and use that to fuel you. So that would be that. Now the hustle tip, I just say keep at it, be determined. That sounds so cliche, but often because of the way I work, my office is in my home, sometimes I'll beat myself up if something personal comes up and I don't get to it. But then I'm like, wait, I can go sit at my desk from 7 to 8. That's a great time to work, or 7 to 11 as it might be. So I just say, don't let your personal life distract from what you're actually trying to do. That's highly important too. As a mother of 4, I stop everything for my kids. When something comes up, I still do that, and I don't beat myself up about it. So that would be my hustle. Keep it up with your family, and that will fuel you to keep it up with your business.
Maybe your manuscript has been rejected for the 10th time. Maybe you're already published, but sales are almost non-existent. The defeated feeling is the same. It's time to get it done right. Rochelle Carter, the author of The 7-Step Guide to Entrepreneurship, has the answers that will turn your career around. Rochelle leads you through the powerful 7 steps, guiding you as you become a successful author and entrepreneur. Build your writing talents into a business, a platform that can sell you and everything you write, giving you what every writer wants, a continuing money flow. Rochelle Carter shares the tried and true, as well as the new, most effective, smart, and affordable steps to plan your publication and sell more books. To be a successful professional writer, the 7-Step Guide to Entrepreneurship is a must-read, a guide you will return to time and time again.
Hi, I'm John Pernaris of the John Pernaris Agency in Ambridge, Pennsylvania. One of my biggest pet peeves is when the IRS rips you off. We've been in business since 1950, and for 65 years, we have been committed into saving you money on your taxes. We keep the IRS off your back and out of your pocket. You can visit us on our website at johnpernarisagency.com. Find us on Facebook at Facebook John Pernaris Agency for money-saving tips, and you can call us at 724-266-4100 to book an appointment now.
Hello, I'm Ryan Lammy, the Executive Director of Radiant Hall Studios. We create and preserve studio environments for working artists. And I'll see you on the next episode of Hustle and Heart TV with Darieth Chisolm.